Heartwarming moment, a female CEO, alone for 10 years, discovers life-changing love with a single father at a local fundraiser. The soft glow of string lights illuminated the community center, creating a cozy atmosphere for the annual Veterans Fundraiser. Sarah, the 38-year-old CEO of a bustling tech startup, stood alone by the punch bowl, her heart heavy with a weight only loneliness could bring. For 10 long years, she had sacrificed love at the altar of ambition. The laughter around her felt like a ghost of families she'd once dreamed of, a stark reminder of the breakup that had torn her apart. As she stood there, a single tear rolled down her cheek, blurring the vision of smiling faces. She quickly brushed it away, reminding herself why she was here. This night was about community, about honoring those who served, about rekindling connections. Taking a deep breath, she smiled at the people around her, but her heart ached for something more. Then, across the room, she saw him. Tom, a devoted single father with warm, inviting eyes and an apron dusted with flour. The charming diner he owned was a local favorite, though struggling under the weight of competition. Sarah noticed how he greeted everyone with genuine kindness, laughing with veterans and their families while serving up the best homemade pie the town could offer. It was as if he brought warmth to the chilly hall, brightening the evening with his presence. They started talking, sharing stories of their pasts. Sarah spoke softly of her dreams. Her company was thriving, helping local businesses like his. Tom recounted the hardships of parenting alone, the longing for a partner, a community. With each word, connection blossomed between them, a shared understanding despite the gulf of their different worlds. The more they spoke, the more his warmth melted the icy wall around her heart. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Tom's laughter resonated in her ears, but soon, the weight of the world stepped back in. A lucrative government contract was on the horizon, one that could save many struggling businesses, including Tom's diner. For weeks, she'd been focused on this deal, envisioning herself as the hero, lifting her community higher. But now, standing with Tom, a creeping doubt grew. Was she becoming the very corporation that threatened their town? The event turned tense as representatives from that same corporation strutted in, flaunting their plans for expansion. The unfamiliar sense of dread gripped her. She saw the fear in Tom's eyes, felt the pulse of the crowd who had fought so hard to keep their town alive. As they clashed, it became clear, success meant little if it came at the cost of her roots. A pivotal choice lay ahead. Would she stand with Tom and her community, or would she chase after her ambition and risk losing the very essence of what it meant to care? With love blooming in her heart and her spirit ignited, she felt the siren call of hope. The next moment could change everything, but the uncertainty held tightly, like a whisper of impending revelation. Would she take the plunge and fight not just for her dreams, but also for the love that was waiting just at the edge of her reach? Sarah's heart raced as she stood frozen, the world around her fading into a blur. Tom's gaze held a mix of hope and fear. It was a reflection of her own turmoil. The corporate champions flaunted their plans, oblivious to the hearts they threatened. Could she really gamble everything she had built for the sake of a man she had just met, a community she barely felt connected to? But then again, wasn't this what genuine love felt like? Wasn't it about risking everything for someone else? With determination, she stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension like a fresh breeze. I don't believe this is what our community needs. There it was, the strength she didn't know she possessed. The crowd shifted, eyes turning toward her. Tom's expression brightened, a spark igniting in those warm eyes that melted the doubts swirling in her mind. Sarah, he whispered, a hint of caution in his tone, but also admiration. I know the contracts matter, she continued, urgency threading through her words. But our town thrives on spirit, not just dollars. It matters that we protect what makes this place special. She felt her pulse quickening, the memories of Saturday picnics in the park, children laughing, and neighbors sharing stories flooding her mind. The corporate representatives laughed nervously at first, their confidence waning under the weight of her conviction. A few attendees murmured in agreement, a wave of solidarity shifting through the crowd. This was her family. These were the people worth fighting for. Tom stepped closer, matching her intensity. "You're right, Sarah. We don't need another chain drowning out our local flavor." The crowd began to rally around their words, sharing stories of their own struggles, their personal hopes for businesses like Tom's Diner to thrive and remain part of the town's identity. Just when it seemed Sarah might gain full momentum, a senior executive stepped forward smugly. "With all due respect, we're here to help," he said, his tone patronizing. "This is progress." But his voice held a hint of uncertainty as Sarah raised an eyebrow. Dare she question this so-called progress in front of everyone who needed real solutions? The collective breath of the room hung heavy in the air, a moment hovering between fear and resolve. Sarah exchanged a glance with Tom, the unspoken connection igniting something deeper within them both. "Help?" she challenged, combining strength with vulnerability. "What if your help puts people like Tom out of business? What if it throws an entire community into chaos?" Each word felt like a punch, but they were driven by passion and care. It wasn't just about the funding or the contracts anymore, it was about life, love, and the people they had grown to cherish. The tension coiled like a spring, waiting to snap. Would they sway the powers that be? Across the room, Sarah noticed the gaze of a familiar face, a mentor, her former boss, gathering attention from the executives. Understood that this was the moment that could shift her path entirely. Did she dare to trust in her instincts, entwined with the budding feelings she shared with Tom? As the conversation escalated and voices grew louder, a decision loomed just above silence, ready to crash down like a wave. Would she seize this moment to stand firm for love, community, and those essential bonds, or would ambition ultimately pull her back into isolation? Suddenly, a loud crash rang out from the kitchen area, drawing everyone's attention. All eyes turned in shock as chaos continued to unfurl around them. Sarah's heart raced, unsure of what would happen next. Was it a symbol of the stakes they fully faced, of the fragility that lay in not just dreams, but in bonds of love and community? As the tension threatened to break, she felt a resolve building. She was not going to back down so easily. The choice loomed thicker now than ever. In this moment, the question remained: would this night be the beginning of her greatest fight, or the end of a budding romance? The crash echoed through the room, pulling Sarah from her thoughts like a sudden jolt. Plates clattered against one another and the heavy scent of spilled soup wafted out toward the crowd. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the audience as everyone shifted their attention toward the kitchen doorway, where a cloud of steam billowed out like a scene from a blockbuster movie. Amidst the commotion, Sarah could barely spot Tom's face, radiating a mix of concern and adrenaline. He shifted as if he wanted to rush to the chaos, but she caught his eye, silently urging him to stay where he was. They needed to present a united front, especially now. From the kitchen emerged one of the diner's wait staff, Claire, looking flustered and wide-eyed. "We've got an issue. The stovetop caught fire, but it's out now." Relief washed over the crowd, but the tension still hung palpably in the air. "Just a small setback," the senior executive retorted sarcastically, his eyebrow raised. "Let us stay focused on the discussion at hand." He looked between Sarah and Tom with a smirk, as if fueling their discomfort. "Maybe the real issue is right here," Sarah said, her voice steady, gaining strength from the chaos instead of fearing it. "Maybe it's about how fragile our livelihoods really are." She gestured toward the remnants of hopeful chatter surrounding them. "What happens when the thing we love, a local diner, a neighborhood bookstore, gets overtaken by a corporation that doesn't care?" The murmurs resumed, attendees showing solidarity, their eyes flickering between the kitchen's chaos and the unwavering passion Sarah displayed. Inspired by her resolve, a voice called out from the back, "She's right. We've seen it happen in town before." Tom leaned closer to Sarah, the warmth of his body providing comfort amidst the furious debate that continued to swell around them. "We can't let them set the agenda." His words were a calming balm on her racing heart. "Together," she whispered back, a touch of fear woven through her words. If they were to really challenge these corporate giants, that would mean facing the truth of their own feelings and fears. Balancing the line between love and ambition had never felt so precarious. As the discussion grew louder, filled with residents sharing their stories, retailers who battled branches of larger chains, families who watched their favorite places disappear, Sarah felt herself becoming an integral part of a greater fabric. This was more than just a community meeting, it was a gathering of souls fighting for a shared existence. A flicker of doubt skittered through her mind as she listened to them. Could she be what they needed? Did she have it in her to rally a town, to fight for love? Her own loneliness echoed in the corners of her heart, the years spent buried in corporate ambition without ever looking around at what truly mattered. But then, Tom's hand brushed against hers, grounding her. Her heart flipped. Here was a man risking everything alongside her, his eyes shining with belief and determination. She drew in a breath, the air vibrating with hope. This, she could fight for. "Let us tell them we want to keep our businesses, our culture," Tom said, voice rising above the noise. The crowd rallied again, their spirits lifting. But as they began to echo their support, Sarah caught a glimpse of the executive distancing himself from the gathering, a flutter of panic igniting within her. What if they lost this fight before it had truly begun? Suddenly, the lights flickered ominously, cutting through their charged atmosphere and sending another wave of apprehension crashing down. A grim sense of urgency gripped her. They had to act fast before hope dissipated entirely. "Now's our time," she breathed, feeling the collective energy wrapping around them like a storm cloud ready to burst. "Let us go all in," Tom said fiercely, but just as she opened her mouth to speak, a sudden voice, unexpected and familiar, called from the back of the room her former boss, gathered yet again in this whirlwind. "I don't think you understand the risk you're under." The room fell silent, a stillness settling that made her insides twist. What were the stakes really? Sarah's stomach twisted with both nerves and the weight of the moment. Little did she know, her next words would be the tipping point that could either ignite a breakthrough or seal their fate altogether. What would she choose next? Would she stand firm or allow the storm to sweep her away? Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the air around her thicken with tension. She scanned the crowd, their faces waiting for her to break the silence. Memories of boardrooms and deadlines played in her mind, but this wasn't business, this was personal. This was everything she had locked away for years, now fighting to burst free. "Risk?" she finally said, her voice steady yet tinged with defiance. "Running from the truth is a risk. Hiding behind corporate chairs and empty proposals won't protect us from losing what truly matters. We cannot let fear dictate our futures." Murmurs broke out again, softer this time, perhaps reflecting the collective unease everyone felt. But she pressed on, feeling the momentum shift as the words spilled from her heart. "I spent years chasing success, thinking that power would fill a void. But nothing can fill the emptiness of a community lost, a culture erased. We don't just want to survive, we want to thrive together." Tom's supportive gaze anchored her, his chin lifted slightly as if urging her to go even further. Unyielding, she continued, "We all have something valuable, our stories, our dreams, and the places that breathe life into them. If we fight together, we can reclaim our future. This isn't just about a diner or a shop, it's about preserving our lives." Claire stepped forward, her hands clasped as though gathering courage. "I remember when my grandmother served coffee here, and the whole town came to gather. It wasn't just a meal, it was our lifeline, a community." More voices chimed in, memories lacing through the room like a warm breeze. Each story piled onto the next, building a force that promised resilience. Sarah felt the worries inside her lift like a cloud dissipating. This was far more than she ever expected, but her former boss spoke up again, his voice cutting through the newfound warmth. "That's all sentimental fluff. The marketplace doesn't have room for nostalgia. He sneered, crossing his arms defiantly. She wouldn't let fear and cynicism prevail. Taking a step toward him, she locked eyes with him, sensing the weight of many gazes resting between them. You're right about one thing. The marketplace doesn't care. But we do. And when people care, they don't just survive, they rise. They fight back. With each heartbeat, Sarah felt the room vibrate with her passion, igniting a spark that seemed to shadow the executive's cold demeanor. The overhead lights flickered again, as if signaling the urgency of their call to arms. Tom took her hand, squeezing it tightly, a silent promise exchanged between them. We'll stand together. Our voices matter, he declared, and the crowd began to chant, piecing together a swell of support that echoed in unison. But just then, the back door swung open. A figure emerged, lanky and wild-haired, a young woman gasping as she hurried in. Beside her, a man held up a battered sign reading "Save Our Diner." The sight brought cheers, yet Sarah's heart raced with anxiety. What did the new arrivals know that the rest of them didn't? Their look of urgency added an extra urgency in the room, filling with hopeful energy. Is this just the start? Sarah thought, feeling the ground shift beneath her as the crowd buzzed with intrigue. Then let us hear it. She shouted, urging them to share whatever it was they had to say. In that very moment, she wasn't just fighting for a diner. She was fighting for connection, for love, respect, and everything the town had stood for. But as the young woman stepped closer, her eyes darting nervously, Sarah wondered what more would it take to protect everything they held dear. Would their gathering spark a change, or would they uncover something far greater hidden beneath the surface? The young woman, her wild hair bouncing with each hurried step, clutched the pole of the sign so tightly that her knuckles turned white. She glanced around nervously, soaking in the faces before her. They were no longer strangers. They were part of the story she was desperate to tell. Hi. Sorry to interrupt. She stammered, her breath still catching from her sprint. I'm Jess. I just came from the city council meeting, and I have news. Sarah felt the room tense. The hum of anticipation grew louder, and she stepped forward, inviting Jess to speak. Please, go on. We're all ears. Jess took a deep breath, the words tumbling out quickly now, catching the momentum of the crowd's eager curiosity. They're planning to sell the diner. And it's not just that they want to tear down the whole block. Like, all of it. The park, the bakery, everything. Gasps vibrated through the room. The faces that had warmed with hope now twisted in disbelief, eyes widening, hearts sinking. Sarah's stomach twisted in knots. The thought of losing the diner was one thing, but the entire block. The heart of their community, Jess continued, her voice wavering yet filled with urgency. They think it's better for development, but it's not. They just see dollar signs. I overheard them say they're not even considering what we want. It's all about the projects that bring in tourists. A surge of anger filled the air. Sarah could see it spreading, the frustration igniting like a match to dry paper. Her heart raced, but this time it was fueled by a fire that urged action rather than hesitation. She could feel Tom's hand tighten around hers, sharing in the shared heartbeat of disbelief. Tourists. One voice piped up. What about us? What's left for those who've lived here our whole lives? Another added, they don't understand what this place means to us. The intensity of emotion was palpable. Sarah's mind whirled. How can we make them listen? How can we show them the value of what they're trying to erase? The room erupted into ideas, voices mixing and weaving together like the threads of a patchwork quilt. Each voice was a colorful splash, representing a memory tied to the diner and the neighborhood they couldn't afford to lose. Protests. We need to show them we mean business. Claire shouted, fire in her eyes. Let us organize a community event, something big that puts our stories front and center, Tom suggested. Sarah turned to him, her heart swelling with hope and admiration. "We'll need all hands on deck," she said, her voice rising above the commotion. "Let us not just talk, let us act. We'll show them our unity, our strength." In the midst of this rising tide of determination, Jess's eyes sparkled with something akin to relief. "You really mean it? You'll fight with us?" "Absolutely," Sarah declared, igniting an infectious enthusiasm that enveloped the room. "Together we can be louder than their plans. Together we'll make them see the heart of this place." Cheers erupted, the sound vibrating through the walls. But as Sarah looked around, she felt a whisper of doubt flicker in her mind. What if they didn't listen? What if they were already set in their decision? The ground beneath her feet felt uncertain again. She took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders, determined not to waver. She had to believe in the strength of her community, in the stories that mattered, and in the power of their unity. But as the loud proclamations of action filled the space, she couldn't shake that nagging feeling. What hidden truths lay in the council's plans? Would this rally be enough to awaken their voices, or were they marching into a battle already lost? "Let us meet again tomorrow," she announced. "We'll plan our strategy. We have to be ready. Together." The crowd chanted, but doubt lingered in the corners of their hopeful smiles. For now, all Sarah could hold on to was the spark of courage igniting within her and the community's heart, now more alive than ever. What would that spark culminate in, as the urgency escalated? Would it be enough? Questions swirled through her mind as she hurried to make plans, watching hope dance alongside fear. And in that moment, everything felt like it was about to change. But how? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm orange glow over the town, Sarah gathered her thoughts. The meeting had stirred a storm within her, and she needed to harness that whirlwind into something meaningful. She leaned against the wooden counter of the diner, the familiar smell of coffee and grease wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. "Hey, you okay?" Tom's gentle voice broke through her reverie. He stepped closer, concern etched across his face. "Yeah, just thinking," Sarah sighed, pulling her hair back into a messy bun. "I just wish I knew what we were really up against. It feels so out of control." Tom suggested. "Trust me, I get it. But we're not alone anymore. Look around. We have Jess, Claire, everyone. They'll stand with us." His words pulled her back, each one stitching her anxiety into a small patch of certainty. "You're right. We need to focus on the community. We should organize something meaningful." Just then, Jess burst back in, her face flushed with excitement. "Sarah! You won't believe it. I talked to the owner of the bakery. She's willing to help promote our event. We can bring everyone together." A flicker of hope ignited inside Sarah. "That's amazing, Jess. We could have the diner and bakery collaborate. A fair, maybe. Local food, stories we can appeal to what makes our town unique." "Exactly," Jess exclaimed, her energy infectious. With plans forming, Sarah gathered the group for an impromptu strategy session. Ideas bounced like popcorn, each suggestion louder than the last, a chorus of enthusiasm that blended into a rhythm of hope. "How about we share our stories?" Claire suggested. "People can come and write down their memories, what this place means to them, make it personal." "Love it," Sarah responded, adrenaline rushing through her veins. "We can hashtag it too. Save our block. It'll pull people in online." As the excitement built, each face glowed with anticipation. Yet there was that lingering doubt gnawing at the edges of Sarah's mind. Doubt wasn't her nemesis, it was her shadow, quietly reminding her of the uphill battle ahead. Later that evening, as the crowd dispersed and laughter echoed into the night, Sarah lingered for a moment. Tom sidled up next to her, a rare seriousness in his voice. "You okay, really?" She forced a smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. Just thinking how far we might have to go. Tom placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You've got this, Sarah. No matter what happens, I believe in you and this community. His honesty wrapped around her, pushing away the cool tendrils of doubt. But in the back of her mind, worry still hung like fog. Would they really come together? Would the council listen? She couldn't let those doubts show, not now that as the fireflies began to dance and twilight deepened. Sarah resolved to sleep on it. She would gather strength from the community, rally them, and face whatever came next. And tomorrow, they would set their plans in motion, but just as she was about to leave, a text buzzed in her pocket. It was from Jess, an urgency pulsing through the short, abrupt words, "I found something you need to see. Meet me at the park, ASAP." Heart racing, curiosity prickling along her skin, Sarah doubted her instincts to stay home. What had Jess discovered? What could be so important that it couldn't wait until morning? In the dimming light, Sarah felt the pull of something bigger than herself. Whatever they were about to uncover, it could change everything. Dashing across the street toward the park, she couldn't shake the question that lingered in her heart: was this the twist they'd all been waiting for, or were they stepping into darker waters? The park was alive with the hum of crickets and an occasional rustle of leaves in the evening breeze, but it felt oddly still as Sarah approached. The shadows deepened, and her heart raced with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. "Jess!" she called, her voice echoing softly through the trees. The dim light from a nearby lamp flickered on Jess's anxious face as she hurried toward Sarah. "Thank you for coming." Jess's breathless excitement contrasted sharply with the serious expression she wore. "You're not going to believe what I found." "What is it?" Sarah asked, barely able to contain her curiosity. Jess reached into her bag and pulled out a small folder, her fingers trembling slightly as she handed it to Sarah. "Take a look." Opening the folder gently, Sarah began to skim through the papers. Her eyes widened as she read. "This is a proposal." It was a development plan, complete with bold outlines for structures and renovations that would reshape the very heart of their town. "Exactly. The council is planning to demolish parts of our neighborhood to build some big retail chain." Jess exclaimed. "They have a meeting next week to push this forward. We have to act fast." Panic washed over Sarah, chilling her blood. "This is worse than we thought. If they go through with this, it will erase everything we love about our community." The folder slipped from her fingers, landing with a soft thud on the grass. Jess nodded, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "I couldn't sit back and let them do this. We can't let our stories fade away. We need to show them that this community matters. Then we need to gather everyone. Use social media. Demand to be heard." Sarah felt her determination grow, shaking off her fears. "We can't just let them bulldoze our memories. This place is home." "Well, what do we do first?" Jess asked, hope mingling with urgency in her voice. "Let us create a petition tonight," Sarah suggested, her mind racing with ideas. "Get people to sign. Hold a rally. Make sure the town feels the weight of our voices. They can't ignore us if we come together." "Right!" Jess exclaimed, her excitement returning. "I'll talk to Claire and Tom. We can meet at the diner and start getting the word out." With a sense of agency sparking between them, Sarah felt the community's heart beating in her chest. They weren't just individuals anymore, they were a collective force. The mountain ahead felt immense, but for the first time, the summit seemed achievable. As they hurried back toward the diner, Sarah glanced around the park, her eyes catching on a tall oak tree. It had withstood the test of time, much like their community. Resolute and standing firm against the elements, it reminded her of the resilience she longed to evoke within her town, but just as they were about to reach the corner of the street, a low rumble echoed in the distance. Sarah's heart dropped. The sound echoed like a warning, a reminder of the impending change that threatened their world. I hope we're not too late, she whispered mostly to herself, the weight of uncertainty pressing against her chest. What would they find when they rallied the community together? And was it enough to take a stand against the developers? As that thought hung in the air, a new text buzzed on Sarah's phone. This one was from Tom, and it read simply, I just got word. They're planning a midnight meeting. We need to be there. The urgency struck deep, and Sarah felt the chill of reality. Tonight, the fight began. The diner bustled with life, the aroma of coffee and fried food filling the air, but Sarah felt an electric tension pooling around her. Jess had already gathered Claire and Tom, and they huddled in a booth, casting hurried glances around as if they were conspirators in a heist. This is huge, Tom said, his brow furrowed. If they're meeting tonight, we need to be there. Jess nodded, her fingers dancing nervously over her phone screen. We need to document the meeting. If we can capture their plans as proof. That's exactly it. Sarah interrupted, her heart pounding with urgency. We need evidence. If they think they can just steamroll us, they're in for a surprise. Claire toyed with her drink, her ice rattling as she broke in with hesitance. But how do we get in? What if they're not allowing anyone? What if her voice trailed off, and worry clouded her features? Look, we can't think like that. We must act. Sarah declared, trying to rally the group. It's our town they're after, and we can't just sit back and let these developers take it away. We grew up here. We have a right to fight for it. Their resolve began to build with every word, but the daunting prospect of confronting city officials made Sarah's stomach twist. Okay, here's the plan, she continued, grounding herself. Jess and Tom will stay here to notify people online. You both can stream updates. Claire and I will head over to the council building and see what's going on. If they think they can shove us aside, they might be in for a surprise. I'm in. Claire said, her initial hesitation melting away. This is our home. We can't let them erase it. Not without a fight. The camaraderie among them surged, igniting a sense of hope. But as they pushed their way out of the diner, Sarah felt the weight of the midnight hour hanging over her. There was something about the stillness of the night, its quiet could swallow them whole if they weren't careful. Once they reached the council building, tension crackled in the air. The building loomed above them, its windows glowing with the flickering light of purpose within. It felt monumental, as if it had witnessed the rise and fall of many. So, how do we get in? Claire whispered, glancing nervously at the doors. Sarah swallowed hard. We wait for someone to leave. Once they're out, we slip in unnoticed. As they stood in the shadow of the entrance, the soft murmurs of voices drifted out, a mixture of authority and indifference. One word caught Sarah's ear: demolition. Her heart raced. This was real, and they were on the brink of something monumental. Just then, a figure emerged, the shadows obscuring their features. Sarah's breath caught as the person walked toward them, her pulse quickened. She exchanged glances with Claire. It wasn't just about them anymore. They were at the gates of something that could change everything. I've never felt more alive, she whispered, a newfound fire igniting within. But before they could act, the figure suddenly turned, revealing a familiar face, someone deeply entwined in their past. The implication sent a ripple of uncertainty through Sarah. Can it be? Claire murmured, eyes wide. In the dim light of the street lamp, recognition flashed between them. But Sarah knew it wasn't just a face from the past, it was a connection that could shift everything. What did this mean for their fight? And could this person ally with them when they needed it most? As they stepped closer, anticipation mingled with dread, and the night felt heavy with possibilities. They were on the brink of change, but now, everything depended on a single conversation. Would it lead to hope or heartbreak? Mark? Sarah's voice trembled as she stepped forward, trying to let the shock settle in. The figure pushed back the hood of their sweatshirt, revealing a face she hadn't seen in years. Mark's familiar smile was edged with surprise and a hint of disbelief. Sarah? What are you doing here? Claire stood behind her, equally stunned. The memories of laughter shared between them in their youth, late-night talks about dreams and fears, flooded back. "We're here for the meeting," Sarah replied, her voice steadier this time. "We heard things might not go well for our town." The urgency in her tone was palpable. Mark's expression shifted immediately. "I didn't know anyone else cared enough to show up." He glanced back toward the building, his brow furrowing. "Does this mean you're fighting against the development?" Sarah felt a surge of determination. "Yes. We can't let them tear down everything we grew up with. We need to protect our home." "You always did have that fire in you," Mark said, a hint of admiration lacing his words. "But it's dangerous. I'm not sure it's enough." The doubt in his voice stung. It was a reminder of how daunting the fight had become. "We can't back down now. There are too many of us who care. We just need to be smart about it." Mark's hesitation lingered, but something behind his eyes ignited. "I'm with you. If you need evidence, I might be able to help," he said, stepping closer. "I still have connections inside." Claire gasped softly, her excitement palpable. "You'd really do that?" Mark nodded, his resolve growing. "I've seen how ruthless these developers can be. I won't let our town fall without a fight. I want to help." Joy spread through Sarah like warmth on a chilly night. They had a chance now, something to build on together. "Thank you, Mark. We can't do this without allies." As they huddled together, Sarah felt that flicker of hope she thought might be extinguished forever. The connections from their past had sparkled, reigniting a sense of community she believed was gone. But just as quickly as it emerged, anxiety washed over her. "What if they find out you're helping us? Your job is at stake." "I know," he said, the gravity of the situation settling over him. "But I'd rather risk everything than stand back and watch them destroy our memories." With a knowing nod, they braced themselves for the task ahead. The council building loomed larger now, a fortress of bureaucracy and power, but they were not alone. As they turned to strategize, the sound of shuffling feet broke through their moment. A group of city officials was making their way towards the exit. This was their moment to slip inside. "Follow my lead," Mark urged. They stepped into the shadows, hearts racing as they melted into the night. Inside, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Voices grew louder, tension palpable. Every word exchanged was filled with layers of secrecy, and Sarah could feel her heartbeat drum in tandem with their purpose. "Just remember," Sarah said, glancing at Claire and Mark, "if things get tough, we stick together. We can't lose sight of what matters." Their eyes met, firm. Determination filled the air, a silent promise to each other. But as they inched closer to the door, a heavy hand suddenly gripped Sarah's shoulder. She turned, facing a sharp-eyed security guard. "Hey! You can't be back here." Panic surged as her mind raced. Would they be thrown out? Or worse, would their mission crumble before it even began? The night had brought twists they hadn't expected, but as long as they had each other, they were ready for anything. What would happen next? In a world of rules and authority, would they find the courage to face their fears head-on? The tension in the room skyrocketed as the guard's stern gaze settled on them. Sarah held her breath, heart racing. "We're here to speak at the meeting," she stammered. "We want to represent our community." The guard's brow furrowed, but before he could respond, Mark stepped forward, his voice calm yet authoritative. "I have a right to be here. I work with the council." A flicker of recognition crossed the guard's expression. "You do?" Mark nodded, maintaining eye contact. "We need to discuss the upcoming development plan. It's vital for the community." With a pause that felt like a lifetime, the guard finally relented. "Fine. Just don't make a scene." Breathing a sigh of relief, Sarah, Claire, and Mark slipped past him into the conference room. The atmosphere shifted, the air thick with authority and quiet conversations. City officials were gathered, flipping through documents and discussing plans for the proposed development. Sarah exchanged glances with Claire and Mark. They were in the lion's den now. As the meeting commenced, Sarah felt the familiar adrenaline coursing through her. She and her friends were determined to make their voices heard. When a discussion arose about demolishing their beloved diner, Sarah jumped up, her heart pounding. "Excuse me." Her voice cut through the chatter, catching everyone's attention. "Please, can we not overlook what makes our town special?" The officials looked surprised. "What's at stake here is more than just buildings," she continued, her voice unwavering. "These places are where our community gathers, where memories are made. You're not just tearing down structures, you're ripping apart our lives." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the audience. Claire stood beside her, emboldened. "We deserve to express our wishes. This isn't just about dollars, it's about preserving our identity." Mark stepped forward, backing them both. "I have information about the long-term impacts of this development, and the survey results show our community overwhelmingly favors preserving the local culture." The council members exchanged glances, clearly unprepared for this level of community response. The air buzzed with a mixture of concern and realization that they might have miscalculated the community's strength. One member dismissed them impatiently. "You think a few voices will change the council's decisions? This is commerce, not sentiment." Sarah swallowed hard, feeling the weight of doubt but pushing through. But commerce thrives on community support. Without it, businesses will fail. You think tourists will flock to a soulless commercial strip? They come for the stories, the charm. We need to preserve that. The room shifted, the energy palpable as their words hung heavily in the air. Suddenly, another community member stood up, adding their own testimony of family gatherings and history within the diner's walls. One by one, more people rose to share their stories, reinforcing the values Sarah had championed. Seeing this unfold, the officials began to shift uncomfortably, the tide of their authority challenged by the collective passion of the community. Finally, the lead council member cleared his throat, looking weighed down. "All right, we will reconsider the proposals and officially hear from you. But understand, this is a complicated situation." "It's only complicated if you choose to ignore us," Mark replied firmly, determination burning in his eyes. "We have a right to be part of this conversation." As the meeting concluded, cheers erupted from the community members, a wave of relief and camaraderie filling the room. Sarah felt the warm glow of hope buzzing through her. They had fought against the current and emerged stronger, together. Afterwards, as Sarah stepped outside, Tom was waiting for her, his face lighting up with admiration when he saw her. "You were incredible. I'm proud of you." Sarah smiled, the warmth of his words wrapping around her like a comforting embrace. "I couldn't have done it without you all." In that moment, as they shared a look that spoke volumes, Sarah realized that she was not just a CEO or a woman chasing ambition anymore. She had found something radically different, something brighter. It was love not just for Tom but for her community. 2 days turned into weeks, and the momentum they had gathered gave rise to a renewed bond among residents. They organized events, shared stories, and even held a small festival celebrating local businesses. And through it all, Sarah and Tom grew closer. Their late-night talks turned into plans for the future, dreams woven together in laughter and shared hopes. As the council made their final decision, the vote was in favor of preserving the diner and the surrounding area, a testament to the power of unity. Standing in front of the diner with Tom beside her, Sarah felt tears of joy brim in her eyes. The lights strung overhead glimmered like the stars, and she could see her community mingling, smiling, and embracing the heart of what they'd saved. "I never thought I'd find this kind of love." Tom's voice broke her reverie, and she turned to him, her heart swelling. "It's amazing what happens when you choose family over ambitions." Drawing closer, she intertwined her fingers with his. Together, they stepped into the diner, arms linked, feeling the warmth from the laughter and chatter echoing through the room. They had weathered the storm and emerged as warriors of love and hope. As she looked around, she knew this was only the beginning. "We're just getting started," she whispered to Tom. The lights twinkled brighter, illuminating a world rich with possibility. This was their moment, a story yet to be told, a life anew, full of heart and purpose. Don't wait not even one more second. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you won't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire and uplift you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help bring more heartwarming tales to life. Hit that thumbs up and let us spread the joy together. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this amazing ending. How did it impact you? And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your love can inspire them to chase their dreams too.